Oh, good morning. I got two things to be happy about this morning. Thing number one is I got a viewer, joins the live chats all the time, comments on the videos. Lives here in Alaska as well, and his name is Rich, and he brewed me, or he roasted me, hand roasted me some coffee. Rich, thank you very much. I told you in that email yesterday it would probably be the best cup of coffee I think I've ever had, and it is. About the best cup of coffee I think I have ever had. And the other thing is, yesterday, for the first time this year, at least that I saw on the gauge, we achieved over 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And it was a beautiful thing. I started working on a project that's for the cabin, and we'll get into that in a bit. But it was so nice that I finally just said, you know what? I'm just going to sit here in the sun and enjoy it. So I kicked back in the chair, fired up the grill, grilled myself a cheeseburger, because I eat dinner relatively early, and just enjoyed it. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. I'm Sean in Alaska. You guys, welcome. This is not the video I said I was going to make. For this week, anyway. It's Easter weekend, and my original plan was to start the beams for the cabin. So the cabin's 20 by 24. I need 3 beams, trying to think of girders, basically, that the subfloor will rest on. And after getting just a ton of suggestions and comments and everything on it, I kind of had to go back and revisit how I build those things and how I want to build those things, including comments from people like Ward, who actually is in the industry, JD, who's in the industry, with suggestions, and pretty much came to the conclusion that everybody had a different answer. And I think I've kind of got an idea of where I want to go with it. But by the time I put all that together, it was Saturday morning. So more than likely, I'm going to put those beams together this week and next weekend, and have them all done for you, or at least one of them done. And I came to another conclusion too. Put this in park real quick. I have a ton of suggestions on how I should do this project, and I appreciate every suggestion that I get. Because I can take bits and pieces of what somebody says you should do and shouldn't do, and make them work for me. And I think that a lot of people have that. When you're learning a new thing, when you're doing something you've never done before, having people give you those suggestions helps you find your middle ground and how you want to do it, and makes that job easier for you. Part of a lot of the suggestions that I've been getting is, you don't want to do this, you want to do that. You don't want to do this, you don't want to do that. And I've come to the conclusion that I kind of know what I want to do and how I want to do it. And I love the suggestions that keep coming in. But rather than forcing myself to try and do this project this person's way or that person's way or the other person's way, or incorporate all those in those, I really have to do this my way. Because while my way is not the best, I'm sure, because I don't know what I'm doing, I'm the only one that could own my way. So with that said, I'm pretty much leaning towards building this entire cabin by hand, which means even though it would be a whole lot easier to do it, I don't own a nail gun, so I'm going to pound these nails by hand. I will use the, obviously the electric tools that I do have. I will use the saws that I have, that kind of stuff. But I don't want to go out and buy a nail gun. And part of this, to me, is the satisfaction of knowing that I did it myself. So, with that said, and everything else that, was going on with trying to get this thing going and trying to get the beam built and trying to figure out what I needed to do. It's Saturday. I'm not going live on Sunday, so I'm taking today off, and I'm going to go out and see Alaska a little bit. Probably pick up lumber either on my way back today for my adventures, or tomorrow when I go into town on Sunday to do laundry. Well, the laundromat's open tomorrow. But yeah, I need a day off the property, so that's what I'm going to do in this video today. First, we're going to take a right-hand turn and see how much water we have down here, because with breakup in full bloom, we usually get a big pool down on this side of the road, but I don't see water there right now. I see a little bit, but I don't see much. So let's go for a drive. Let's go see Alaska. Let's center ourselves again, shall we? No water down here at all. Cool. That's crazy. Yeah, usually this is a lake. And even the quarry part there is not filled up with water. This ground's going to dry out quick this year, folks. Once it finally dries. So when I was younger and as a kid growing up, I was lucky to have an incredible father. He was strict. Lord knows my brothers and I got whoopings more often than not, and 99.9% of the time we earned them. We deserved them. But he was a very logical, very smart guy, and he would say, what are you getting ready to do? How are you going to do it? What have you done to plan for that? Have you got everything ready that you're going to need for that? Have you thought this through? And as I grew older, I just kind of threw a lot of that stuff by the wayside, and just kind of went with it, right? Just kind of jumped right in, both feet. And it cost me successes multiple times, generally speaking, in projects. It would make things a lot harder to do than they should be. So when I get home today, one of the things I'm going to do is lay out everything that I have tool-wise. I need to get that saw put together and finished, the one that's going to go on the stand. I need to get everything lined up to see that I have everything, in fact, I'm going to need to get this done. I might run into one or two things during the project that I didn't think about, and that's a lot better than running into 20 different things that I didn't think about. And that'll make me feel a whole lot more comfortable about getting started with this thing. I guess the best thing that I can say to anybody who's considering doing what I'm getting ready to do here is take a breath, right? You got a great plan. You got a great idea. You got what you think is a great plan. You're excited. You're a little bit, intimidated, scared by what you're getting ready to do because you've never done it before. And you've got a pretty good investment going into it financially as you go. Step back. Take a few minutes. Take a deep breath. Relax. Think about it. When I first got into brewing years ago, there was a book that I saw that really encapsulated this entire thing for me. And sure, it was about brewing beer, but the title was pretty awesome. And it was a book by a guy by the name of Charlie Papazian. So anybody who's a brewer out there will know who Charlie Papazian is. He was like the godfather of the new brewing revolution and the home brewing revolution. And the title of the book was called The Joy of Home Brewing, but the mantra throughout the entire book was relax, don't worry, have a home brew. So I'm going to refocus myself this weekend before I get everything started and keep telling myself, relax, don't worry, you're only building a house. Matter of fact, I might actually pop that up on the screen every once in a while. Relax, don't worry, it's only sticks and nails. How's that? That sounds pretty good. Make a quick stop off at the dumps, and then go for a little drive, look for some eagles, maybe buy my fishing license today, and enjoy Alaska. Bring myself off that precipice and that ledge. I mean, look at this. Look at how beautiful this is right here. Well, let me show you. Even though we haven't gotten into green up yet, you know, the trees aren't starting to bud or anything, there's something beautiful about this. Absolutely gorgeous. Part of the way that I'm learning what I should and shouldn't do and how I should and shouldn't do stuff is by watching other channels, obviously, that have already done this project. And you know, I had the idea to build this, and I had been watching a bunch of channels first. I'll give you a couple of examples. Off Grid with Jay and Jen. They built their cabin. Looks like Jay sunk 6x6s right into the floor, or right into the ground. Leveled them off with a chainsaw and used water in a tube as a level, because, you know, water will always find its own level, and it's pretty ingenious, right? That was kind of the old way that they used to level things out before. Mapleberry Farm Off Grid, another channel that, you know, they've done this project a couple of times. They've built the first cabin that they lived in, and then now they're building the second cabin that they're planning on moving into. And then they use what they call screw piles, and I call them heliconial piers, you know, where you just screw these into the ground. Kyle's cabin, where he just floated the entire girder system and subfloor on top of pads that were laying right on the bare ground, with the philosophy and mentality of, hey, you know, you're going to have a little bit of fluctuation, but you're probably only going to have to come back and do any adjustments to the overall system once every 5 to 10 years, which is pretty ingenious. And there's a lot of great ideas on how to do different things like this. And I'm doing a completely different than those three channels. So mine is going to be on sonotubes, which means I pretty much have to go all the way down below the frost level so I don't suffer from the frost heaves. And I've tossed around the idea of changing up that foundation plan, but the problem is that I like the idea of having the extra room underneath the cabin. You know, a raised height underneath there that I can use for storage, and then I can, you know, get to the plumbing and everything else that I plan on having in there eventually much easier. Here's another thing that I've racked my brain over. A lot of people, and I think this came from Boss of the Swamp, a lot of people like to use this bubble foil wrap on top of their subfloor before they lay their plywood down. And you know, MBF is a great example of somebody who says, you know, hey, you know, we live in Canada and it's worked fine for us. That's the only insulation we have on our floor, but I'm not personally comfortable with that idea. So I'm probably not going to go that route. All three of the previous channels, MBF Off Grid, Jay and Jen, and Kyle's Cabin, all use the bubble foil. I just don't see how this much insulation, you know, bubble foil or not, can keep the floor warm. And there's one thing I've learned after living in a fifth wheel trailer for the last few years. I don't like a cold floor. My feet don't like a cold floor. So lots and lots of different ideas and lots of different ways to do these things. And I encourage you guys, if you're, you know, if you want to see some fun projects, definitely check them out. Off Grid with Jay and Jen and MBF Off Grid, funny channels, fun people, real characters. Kyle's Cabin, Kyle's a lot more, he's a pretty serious young man, but really great explanations for how he's doing things and why he's doing things. And again, super talented, in three completely different ways, by the way, of how to possibly build your cabin. So I'm going with sonotubes. I'm building my beams. Even though I've had multiple suggestions on how I should do that, I'm going to go the way that I want to go with it. And that's not to put anybody else's suggestions down. It's just what I feel most comfortable about. I may be wrong when I'm done. We'll find out, right? But it amazes me how different perspectives can, and different ways of doing things can all end up with something working in the end. It's crazy. It's cool. It's super cool. There he is. 6 o'clock in the morning, and he's up there on the top of the tree just hooting away. I think he's looking for chickens. They're in their house. So cool. Such a neat sound. Sorry, buddy. No chickens today. Way too early. Those guys aren't even out of bed yet. Good morning, ladies. Glad you could join us this fine morning. I wouldn't get out too far. We don't know where Mr. Owl went. Look how much has melted. You can really see a dip down there, right? A huge dip from where the sun has nailed that. It's melting quick. We're still getting freezes every night. Ground is slowly but surely freezing or thawing out. Early Sunday morning, I'm headed to the laundromat to go get some clothes washed up, and I think that after this Sunday trip, it'll be Thursdays when I'm in town. It's beautiful. The driveway's thawing out. Everything's thawing out. We're getting there. It's crazy how bright it is through the camera. It's not really that bright this morning, but the camera's picking up everything. You can see most of the road is now cleared. I keep driving over on that other part when I come in, the part on the left side there. So it'll hopefully break up a little bit more every day. Get rid of it all. And eventually they'll come through here with a grader, regrade the whole road, get it nice and smooth again. Winter beats the roads up here in Alaska, and that's why, in this part anyway, once you get out of town, everything is pretty much a dirt road. There's dirt roads in town too. Just much easier to maintain than it is to have to keep coming through and paving everything all the time. There's a moose right up there in the road. We're going to engage the moose cam because there's a moose just finished crossing the road up here. Let's see if we can't zoom in. Good morning, Missy Moose. How are you? Big animal. Big animal. It was kind of cool, huh? Hopefully that video came out really, really super clear, because I'm going to try and zoom in on that even more so that you can get the full moose. But so I've been doing these YouTube videos for about 2 years now, right? 2 years kind of seriously. Since 2020 is when I really said, okay, I'm going to start doing videos on a regular basis. And I just yesterday, while I was playing around with the camera, found out that, in fact, the cell phone camera right here has a full HD setting, and one that will be that I can record at like 60 frames per second. So why would that be important? Well, because that way when I actually go into slow motion on some of the driving when I'm going by, it'll stay clear. And I just found it yesterday. I've had this phone for a couple of years now too. No excuse. I'm learning something every day. Crazy. Hopefully you'll get a good view of the moose we saw. It's pretty close too. Very cool. Love to see a bull. Nice rack of antlers. Record that for you and show you that. I think that would be awesome. And there is another moose. You need to figure out where you're going there, Mr. Moosey. It's a big one. All legs. Hurry up. Get up the hill. There we go. First load of lumber in the truck, heading back to the house. This just got incredibly real. So I just got the first beam loaded up in the back of the truck here. And I paid... What did I buy? Oh, I paid for 3 things of liquid nail. A 10-pound box of galvanized nails. And I went with galvanized on this one because I'm going to treat the wood myself. This is not pressure treated lumber. So I'm going to buy the copper green and paint it myself, and I didn't want to play any games with any reaction. So I got the hot dipped galvanized, which is what you want to use with pressure treated wood, so I thought it wouldn't hurt to use it with this either. And then the 2x8 by 10 foot, 9 of them at $26.62. So not counting the nails, that beam's going to cost $239.58, and I need 3 of them. Today's grand total spending on the cabin, first actual official spent something on the cabin, is with tax $310.01. But I shouldn't have to buy more nails for the beams anyway. I know I'm going to have more nails that I have to buy during the project, but I won't need any more for the beams. This should cover all of them. Exciting, fun. I decided to go with the liquid nails because it'll add just that much more strength to it. I decided to not go with the plywood because the cabins that I described earlier from the other YouTube channels seem to just build the boards up on themselves without the plywood in between, and did just fine. So the other option is basically building a laminated beam, but laminated in reverse, on the side instead of top to bottom. Using 2x8 plywood, 2x8 plywood, 2x8. I didn't want to go through all that. I don't think I need to go through all that. So we shall see. I am going to get home, probably pull something out of the freezer for dinner, and then start putting this together. This is a project that'll keep me busy for the next few weeks until I can actually start setting sonotubes, squaring everything up, getting everything ready to go. The plan is I'm going to build these beams. I'll pick up that copper green stuff, paint. It's like a stain kind of stuff, but it penetrates into the wood. I'll pick that up probably next week. Along with the next beam. Hopefully we'll see how long this one takes me to build. And then I'll get them all treated, and I'll just have them laying there on the side covered with a tarp, ready to go until it's time to set them in place. I think they're saying Happy Easter. Hello. How are you? How we doing, girls? I got 8 here, and I got 1 laying in the nest. I can't wait till the snow's gone so that I can get in there and rake everything up and clean everything up a bit for them. What are you doing? There's no escaping. So I was going to throw that box away, but that's a big box. That's a nice box. It's empty, so I'll grab the styrofoam out of it, throw it in a bag, and throw that off at the dumps. But I'm going to use that for the second stage of the chicks that I've got coming this year. Next month, a couple of weeks from now. So stage 1 will be obviously inside on the table, but I don't have the big wooden box I had last year for the chicks. So instead of the big wooden box outside, when I start acclimating them to the outside weather, I'm going to use this giant cardboard box. And this should do the same thing. I got a roll of hardware cloth that I can put over the top of it to make sure that they can't jump out. Nothing can jump into them. But that'll work good. All right, time to figure out how I'm going to do this with the lumber. These beams are going to be 30 feet long. So I need to get my tools together, figure out what I got going on, and then figure out how I'm going to build these so that I don't break my back trying to do it, and then where I'm going to keep them when I'm done as I build them. So I really can't do anything over here yet, obviously, because there's way too much snow. But I'm thinking I could set up a couple of those logs that I have there, the short poles, and set them up over here on the ground and raise it up enough so that I don't have to worry about them getting wet. And I could just lay them all right here, and that will give me a pretty good idea of what 30 feet looks like. So that the extra 6 feet that I'm going to have on the end is just going to be a free hanging section on the very front of the cabin. So it'll be, here's another great example. Let's go to our model. Let's go to our mock-up, shall we? And all that water that was pooled up here yesterday, as you can see, is all gone. I did make a secondary trough back over there. There's quite a bit of water building up from the melt, but this water is pretty much gone, and it's worked its way all the way through. So here's the cabin. Again, we've got the 20 feet here by the 24 feet in length. So that extra 6 feet of beam is going to hang off the front here. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to make a 6-foot porch on the very front of that. And it'll be free hanging, but I'm not worried about that. It's not going to be a weighted room. It's not going to have a lot of weight on it. It's just going to have a little porch deck on the front. And I think that's going to be a huge little benefit on the front. Like basically I can sit out on the porch when I come home. I can also use it to stack some wood on, have a little dried covered entryway when I come into the house, so I don't have to worry about dragging snow and stuff into the cabin. Let's get this started, shall we? Fun. I'm going to break up some ice over there, and I think I'm going to build these beams kind of right on the driveway to start with, and then I'll drag them out of the way. All right, this is not going to build itself.